We recognize that CVUUS gathers on lands seized from the Western Abenaki people by European colonizers. The Abenaki are still here, still hunting, fishing, foraging, weaving, laughing, dancing, praying, surviving, and thriving, despite forced assimilation and migration and the state's denial of their existence. We respect the Abenaki's spiritual relationship to the land and waters of the Champlain Valley, and we're committed to building a peaceful and more just relationship with them, and to promoting knowledge about their history and culture. Good morning. And welcome to those of you here on this beautiful Vermont sunny day, and to those of you joining us on Zoom, to CVUUS, the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. You are welcome here no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what your background. You're welcome to join us in community as we learn, live, and love together. Amen. If this is your first time with us, please sign the book in the lobby and you'll receive our monthly newsletter. Please also join us downstairs after the service for refreshments and conversation. Each Sunday service can be a little different. Services are led by one of our two part-time interim ministers, the Reverend Tricia Hart or the Reverend Christina Solari, led by CVUUS congregants and other invited speakers. If anyone is having trouble hearing me, we have hearing assistance instruments at the back. If you want one, Mary back there can help you with one. This would be a great time to put those cell phones into worship mode. When you came in, you may have noticed, and if you didn't, they're just outside the door, these yellow cards, and these are to write down any kind of joy or concern or milestone or passage that you want to have read and shared with the congregation. These other pink cards are if you would like to reach out to our caring committee for some kind of help and assistance. My name is Becky Strum. I am delighted to be a member of this congregation and a member of the worship team. And this morning, I'm really delighted to serve as worship minister for the Reverend Tricia Hart. There are many, many pathways in addition to these Sunday services to make connections, and you will hear about them in our monthly newsletter, our weekly email blast, in our written order of service on the screen. And this morning, I just would like to invite you to stay after the service for our monthly congregational conversation, which will begin at 11:30 back up here in the sanctuary. Finally, so many thanks to everyone who has helped to make this service possible. Richard Hopkins, Mary Hadley, and Liam Batches Greenwood, our tech team, Abby Sessions on the camera, Jess Daniel for seasonal decorations. I know that Steve Meyer was a greeter. I'm not sure who else was, but thank you to our greeters, the CVUUS board for social hour help and refreshments, and all others who made this service possible. So let us join together in our gathering song, number 311 in the gray, one of my favorites, Let It Be a Dance.
Through the good times and the bad times. It's challenging. It is challenging to join together in worship when you have to read the words, sing the song, and dance at the same time. But by the end of the song, I think I saw many of you get into it. Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie. The theme of this month has been generosity, which is interestingly not quite the same thing as gratitude, but boy, oh boy, are they connected together. The call to worship today is a poem written by Alberto Rios, who is the inaugural state poet laureate of Arizona. I didn't know this before, and author of many poetry collections. And for 6 years, he served as a chancellor of the Academy of American Poets. Did you know that there was an Academy of American Poets? Brett did know that. He entitled this poem, "When Giving is All We Have." We give because someone gave to us. We give because nobody gave to us. We give because giving changed us. We give because giving could have changed us. We have been better for it. We have been wounded by it. Giving has many faces. It is loud and quiet, big though small, diamond in wood nails. Its story is old, the plot worn, and the pages too, but we read this book anyway, over and again. Giving is first and every time hand to hand, mine to yours, yours to mine. You gave me blue, and I gave you yellow, and together we are simple green. You gave me what you did not have, and I gave you what I had to give. Together we made something greater from the difference.
And now it is time for our chalice lighting. The chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, and your words are in both the printed order of service and on the screen, so please join me in today's chalice lighting. This chalice is for the living, the changing, the becoming. This chalice is for losing the script of your life, the chapters about who you are in other people's stories. This chalice is for the lost GPS that was supposed to show you how to get where they expected you to go. This chalice is for skipping the directions, coloring outside the lines, painting not by number, but by silence, by wild abandon. With a brush you made yourself from light deep inside, startling, vivid, a new voice that already knows you, finally, a true story.
Okay, another challenging thing we sometimes do when we come to church. I have a question for you, for any of you, and I hope you'll have some thoughts about this. What would you say is a board of trustees? I'm sorry, what was that? Board. I need to tell you a story later, yes. Yes, what's a board? My goodness, a group of people called to make decisions on behalf of a body of people. Great, yes. A bunch of people coming together to share ideas, for sure. I'm sorry, I can't. And change stuff. Wait, is that right? Boards? get together and come up with ideas and change stuff. What a cool idea that is. Okay, what else? What else is a board? Yes, yes. It is a group of people in whom we place our trust. Let's just sit with that for a second. How many people in this room right now have served on the board of this religious society? Ooh, look around, everybody. Okay. And keep your hands up just for a second. How many of you have ever served on any board of trustees for any organization? Wow. Thank you all. So the idea that a board is a group of people in whom we place our trust. Yes, there was another somebody over here. Yes.
Trustees specifically make long-term, like they have the long-term vision and it's very like money focused.
Okay, both those things are important. Trustees hold or try to hold the long-term vision, and they don't forget the money part of that, of the everything, of the making changes, of the vision, etc. What else? What have we not said yet? Steve? A board has responsibilities. Yeah, like what kind? Legal, financial, and organizational decisions. Okay, here's a question. Is it the board's job to decide what color to paint the restroom? Okay, it's really, really clear that we know that the answer to a question like that, and there are any number of other possibilities, we know the answer is no, but sometimes do boards get involved in decisions like that? Okay, maybe they do. Yes, what else? Yes. Okay, I may have to tell me. Trustees are people who are who willingly giving up themselves, sometimes over and over and over, until they are bored of trustees. Okay, I need to, I'm not going to say that's wrong. I was elected, before I went to seminary, before I'd even decided I wanted to be a minister, I served as the president of the Board of Trustees in my home congregation. And I feel like it was the first meeting. It probably wasn't the first meeting of that year, that new congregational year, but it was a cold, icky day, or something was happening in the parking lot of the church, and I arrived at the building for the first board meeting that I was going to run. And I was nervous, and taped onto the door was a sign indicating that the board meeting was happening, but not in the space that it usually met. And the minister, who was a friend of mine, is the one who made that sign. Is that in a minister's job description, to put up the sign of where the board meeting is? Probably not. But anyway, he did. He made the sign to say what room the board meeting was in. And he wrote board meeting in whatever the room was. And then he crossed out, he was a funny guy, he crossed out B-O-A-R-D and wrote B-O-R-E-D. And I got mad at him for possibly the first time in our lengthy relationship, in which we got mad at each other at other times. Yeah, it's tempting. It's tempting. What else have we not said? Yes. In collaboration with those they're working with, Heidi hopes, we all hope, that they will provide, that the board takes up the responsibility of providing leadership. Yes. Right. Is that ever scary? It is. It is. It is. What one, oh, Poppy.
They help to keep us safe
Boards help to keep us safe.
with our spaces, with our people, with our money.
Sometimes boards even hire ministers. So that's also a thing that has to do with safety and leadership and vision and money and all of those things. Yes? Yes. Board members are elected by the people, at least in our tradition. It's actually a very important thing to say. That's right. Ministers don't choose boards. Boards sometimes choose ministers. All right, the reason that I'm asking you all of these questions is because I want you to think about it. I want you to think about what boards do, and because you are about to get a glimpse of some of the work that your Board of Trustees is doing and has been doing this year, which is great. And Carrie Duquette Hoffman, who is this year's board president, is going to come up and talk to you about that.
Hello, everyone. Thanks. I am so excited to be up here today introducing my fellow board members to you. They're a great group of people. It makes it a joy to serve with them. So as we're doing this, I just want to tell you a little bit about the board goals that we have this year. Each year, the board listens deeply to the congregation and generates goals based on what we hear. We hope that these reflect what we need as a group. This year, in the goal of shared ministry, the board created our goals, the Council on Ministry created their goals, and then Alan fused them together to really embody this concept of shared ministry. So, I'm going to call up each of our board members. We'll have a very simplified version of our goals, which I just love. Thank you so much to Reverend Tricia and Poppy for pulling these together. It's great. And we'll repeat these as a way to reflect and kind of absorb and see if you share, like if we heard what you were saying. So let's start. Oh, yes, okay.
So if any kids are going to help hand signs to people or hand the gifts that we're giving at the end to people, this is the time to come on up. You will not have to say anything. You will not have to stay up here. So if you want to do that, please come over here close to where I was sitting. And it's fine if we only get a few, so no pressure.
Thank you. Okay. So I'd like to first ask our board vice president, Hannah Sessions, to come up. Okay. Ready? Communicate well to connect well. Thank you. Thank you. Next, our board secretary, Cass Singh. Create joy together. Create joy together. Thank you. Thank you. Our treasurer, Mary Conlon. Share the work of the ministry and service together and one another. Share the work of the congregation. And our members at large, Brett Millier. Of all of us. All of us take care of all of us. Alan Moore. Kids and youth and adults are together. Kids and youth and adults are CVUUS together. Doug Richards. Work together for a better world. Work together for a better world. And myself, Carrie Duquette Hoffman. And I'm sorry, everyone. Yes, I'm totally fine. Embarrassed, but fine. Poppy's gonna help us with the 8th.
So take just a minute and look at these again. And here's my guess. My guess is that you can imagine that behind these short goals is a whole page of text, which is all the details. And we decided that we didn't want to share all of those today because we wanted you to get the gist of it. And in fact, maybe to ask questions. Well, what on earth does the board mean? What does this mean? What might it mean in terms of changes and possibilities for this year? So I just want to reassure you that you will be hearing about these goals and you'll be invited into that conversation, and it's really fun and wonderful to see them all together. Thank you, board. Thank you, council, for doing this. This is great. But don't go too, no, give your cards to Becky and don't go too far away. We have a little something for you. Don't knock Carrie off the end.
Yeah, I just have a brief thing to say. So we started a tradition where every year we give the board something that has been made or partially made by the kids to just acknowledge their work and say thanks. So this year they're getting hearts that were made from these leaves that the kids actually made like 10 years ago for this gratitude tree that we had in the foyer for a while, where we wrote things on the back of these leaves, and I had leaves left over and I thought they were so beautiful that I've kept them and kept making things. So, kids, it's okay if you don't go to the right person, so don't worry about it. But everyone, there's a name on the back, so you want to go up and try to find your person and hand them their heart, which they can put on. So, hearts from all of us to say thanks for taking care of our hearts. And now we're going to sing the kids out. So all the kids are going to go, and today we're staying in one group, and it's going to be Making Ornaments Part 2, Electric Boogaloo, for those of you who know that movie. And we're going to head out, we're going to make ornaments and also have free play for an RE Fun Day if ornaments aren't your thing. And everyone else, we will start selling ornaments next Sunday in the foyer. So you can look for that, our annual tradition. This is the 10th year of it. So that's pretty cool. So we're going to, what? What? Yes. So we're going to go out right now. We're sticking with the same song to leave with. We'll see how long we need to stick with it. It is peace, salam, shalom. So peace in Arabic, Hebrew, and English by Emma's Revolution. And we just sing it a cappella. So I invite you to rise and body your spirit. And it's pretty straightforward. I mean, there's like one verse, and it's the only words are peace, salam, shalom. And once you've heard it, you've heard it. And we'll do it a couple times as we leave. Feel free to add in harmony if you hear it or are so moved. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom.
Every week in the middle of our worship together, we take up a collection, which is a reminder that this congregation exists because people believe in it and have hopes and excitements and goals for it, and as a way of distributing our personal gifts into the community. Every week, the offering is shared, and the shared beneficiary this month is Gedakina, which is an organization that exists to provide assistance and support and company for especially women and children and youth in the Abenaki community. So your gifts will make a difference. This morning's offering will now be most gratefully received. The offering is also a time to be grateful, to be remembering that this congregation is a group, a community that holds all of us in our different ways, different stories. So as the music gets over into the From You I Receive, which we hope that you will sing in a minute, I want you to first take a minute and turn around and look at somebody. Maybe look at somebody you love, and then look at somebody that maybe you've never met before, and you might even smile.
It has, do we kind of lost, there we go. It's been a week of living, a week of happiness and sadness, joys and concerns, milestones and passages. And I have some to share. First of all, I would like to welcome our newest member, Susan Patterson, who became a member this past Thursday at the CVUUS Thanksgiving. Welcome, welcome, Susie. I have Ann Christie, who writes, "Great gratitude to Mike Greenwood and Carol Harden for organizing, promoting, offering CVUUS Thanksgiving. I was very pleased to anticipate sharing Thanksgiving with my family until I had a different invitation that took me away." Josh writes, "I wish we can all take a moment to mourn the 3 Palestinian students who were shot or wounded yesterday in Burlington, and to contemplate what it means for our community that this hatred took place so close to home. May they recover swiftly and fully. May our Middlebury Palestinians stay safe." Take a moment for that. And finally, a milestone from Elio, feeling grateful for Thursday. The Constance was some of the most loving fun I've had in a while. Thank you to the to the teachers, musicians, fellow dancers, and all chefs. Much love from Elio. And now Reverend Tricia will lead us in a time of reflection.
And after a few words and some silence, Francois will sing. So take a breath. And another if you need to to help you remember that you're here. And the sun is out. And we are worshiping together. It may be this week, as life has been happening, it may be that you are feeling full of blessings, of deliciousness, of company and laughter. And you really can't quite believe how lucky you feel today. And it may be that today you're not feeling full at all. That you're wondering why you're here exactly. What your work is, whether you will be able to do it. You might, in this time of celebration, be feeling very alone. Remember that the world is full of all of this, that all around you, right now and today and this season, there are people around you feeling full and blessed, and people around you feeling lonely and uncertain. And all of us, when we take a breath and pay attention, recognize that we have been blessed, and the people in the world have been blessed, and the people in the world are suffering in so many different places, but in many of the same ways. Fear and loss and violence. So as we're measuring or weighing or contemplating our sense of fullness and emptiness, all of it is a way to prepare our hearts to open. Our minds too, but especially our hearts. And in that opening, perhaps you can hear, imagine the grief of a parent in Israel, the grief of a parent or a grandparent or a sibling or just a person in Gaza, in Ukraine, in Sudan, in Mali, in Argentina, in Burlington, in Middlebury. We are all connected to one another. And we can be open to that awareness and what that calls us to do and be. Let us rest just for a moment in the not quite silence we make together.
Wow. Thank you so much, Francois. Thank you for being here with us. Amen. Thank you, Francois. In the afternoon of June 26th, I'm going to take us back to 2015, President Barack Obama traveled to Charleston, South Carolina, to eulogize the Reverend Clementa Pinckney after he was killed alongside 8 of his parishioners in a racist shooting at the Mother Emanuel AME Church on June 17, 2015. The president had told his advisors that he didn't want to speak, did not think he should speak, did not know what more he could say about the relentless gun violence in our country. But he did speak, and at a point in his eulogy, he stopped speaking and began to sing Amazing Grace. I kind of felt a little the same way just now. But when I heard the president sing at that time, I remember so specifically that the power of the music, the lyrics, and this man, my president, singing, gave me a feeling of connection to all of my fellow humans. To this day, when I went back and watched this moment, it brought tears to my eyes again. I think that singer-songwriter Joan Baez captured the moment so beautifully, and so it's her words that I've chosen to share with you today as a reading. A young man came to a house of prayer. They did not ask what brought him there. He was not friend, he was not kin, but they opened the door and let him in. And for an hour, the stranger stayed. He sat with them and seemed to pray. But then the young man drew a gun and killed 9 people, old and young. In Charleston, in the month of June, the mourners gathered in a room. The president came to speak some words, and the cameras rolled, and the nation heard. But no words could say what must be said for all the living and the dead. So on that day and in that place, the president sang Amazing Grace. The president sang Amazing Grace. We argued where to lay the blame on one man's hate or our nation's shame, some sickness of the mind or soul, and how the wounds might be made whole. But no words could say what must be said for all the living and the dead. So on that day and in that place, the president sang Amazing Grace. My president sang Amazing Grace.
Thank you, Becky. So what we're talking about today in a bunch of different ways is change, which is a hard thing. and so much with us in life now, probably always, but we know all the things that are happening now. Change is hard and daunting. And change is also central to who and what we are as Unitarian Universalists. Because when the world is not as it should be, we have to try to understand and do something about it. There is no other way to be faithful to our values and principles than to pay attention to the world and to act and to work for change when we can. It is not our way, generally, to wait for God or Goddess or the universe to take care of things, even though we too depend on the Holy Spirit, whether we talk about it or not. The truth is, change is hard, and changing people's minds is really hard. I just want you to, as you hear the story I'm about to tell you, I want you to spend just a minute remembering how hard it is to change your own mind about something, about almost anything, but especially something that you really care about. And you might reflect on how you've reacted when someone else is trying to change your mind for you. This is hard work. And it may or may not surprise you to hear me say that in all this work of change, religion is a central tool. We Unitarian Universalists, because we have a creedless faith, we sometimes act like we can just ignore religion, but I don't think we can or we should, because religion is all about changing minds. I'll just mention the parable of the Good Samaritan. You all know that story, right? What you maybe didn't hear, I didn't as I was a kid, is the fact that the person who helped was not the fine, upstanding, important, let's imagine, church board member, forgive me, board, but a Samaritan. And in those times, Samaritans were people who were generally not thought of as respectable or helpful or good. So in telling that story, Jesus makes us think, and maybe makes us think about changing our minds. All religions do this. And I want to tell you what I think is my favorite religious story about changing minds. And that is the story of the Englishman John Newton, who lived in the 1700s in the 18th century in England, and among many, many other verses and hymns, he is the author of Amazing Grace. I heard the story long ago, and perhaps you did too, how John Newton was working on a slave ship that was carrying enslaved, kidnapped Africans across the ocean for a life of horror. John Newton was doing something that he had been doing for years, and he didn't think much about it, except that on this particular day there was a storm, a terrible, terrible storm in the ocean. And Newton decided that God was trying to talk to him in this storm. And he decided that maybe there was a chance that he could survive, John Newton could, if he made a commitment to change his life, to believe what on some level he already knew, I think, that human beings enslaving other human beings is wrong. So the story is that he had this experience, heard God talking to him in the storm, and quit being a slave trader. And he became a minister, and he wrote hymns, including Amazing Grace, which is all about his conversion and the mercy of God, even in the moments when we have no reason to expect that. And that song and others like it would change other people's minds and hearts too. This story is true in its essence. But the actual story is a whole lot more complicated and interesting. And I didn't hear it till I was in seminary. So just a few little facts here, a couple of dates. John Newton was born in 1725. His father was a shipmaster, a slave trader, and his son followed him into that work. And it was in 1748, when young John Newton was 23, that the ship that he was on was caught in a violent storm off the coast of Ireland, and he was afraid, and he called out to God for mercy. Before that day, Newton wrote, he was not a religious man at all, but he had a change of heart on that day, and it led him to study religion and eventually to study for the ministry. But this was not a miracle. It did not happen in the blink of an eye. The change, in fact, was not quick at all. Newton continued as a slave trader after that day in the middle of the storm in the ocean for 7 more years on ships carrying kidnapped Africans. While he was on the boat, he would study theology. He learned Latin, apparently, while at sea. While he was in the business of enslaving human beings. And after he left and stopped actually working on the slave boats when he was 28, and even in the midst of his extensive years-long religious studies, he invested in the business of slavery. He made money, like lots of other people did. He was 32 when he first applied for ordination, and he was turned down repeatedly. Turned down by the Methodists, by the independent churches, by the Presbyterians, and by the Church of England. Though finally, the Church of England, when he was 39, so 16 years after the storm, ordained him as a minister. He had already begun to write hymns with the poet William Cowper, and they wrote Amazing Grace. It was first probably not sung, probably chanted. The music came later on New Year's Day, 1773, when he was 47. 26 years after the day that John Newton heard God's voice in the storm. It was 1780, when he was 55, that he became the rector of a church in London, and he helped to found an abolitionist organization. And in 1787, when he was 62, he made the first public declaration of his opposition to slavery and talked about his work to end it. He wrote a book called Thoughts Upon the African Slave Trade, which was published in many editions. He made sure that every member of Parliament got a copy of it, including William Wilberforce. Do you recognize that name, perhaps? Who was also an evangelical Christian who led the effort to change the laws and outlaw slave trading in England. The law outlawing slave trading was passed in 1807, just before John Newton died. I really like this story because it just seems so true to me. It reminds me of life and people and myself. John Newton's heart was moved and his mind was changed slowly, but he stuck with it, even though it took almost 40 years. So it is absolutely true that he made a difference in the world, politically, morally, religiously, and artistically. And it took way too long. But it happened. I think it's also true, feels true to me to say that the song itself, Amazing Grace, changed the world. Interestingly, this was not a big hit in England when it was first published, but by the 19th century, Amazing Grace was being used a lot by Baptist and Methodist preachers in the United States as part of their evangelizing, especially in the South. And it became an important spiritual in the Black church tradition. The message of the song is that forgiveness and redemption are possible regardless of any sins that we have committed, and that the soul can be delivered from despair through divine mercy. Amazing Grace is one of the most recognizable songs in the English-speaking world. And it became newly popular during a revival of folk music in the 1960s. Does anybody remember who the first folk singer was who recorded Amazing Grace? I think it was not Joan Baez. I think it was Judy Collins. And the song that some of us hear in our heads when we're thinking of it is that one. One biographer estimates, who knows how they estimate these things, that the song is performed about 10 million times every year. So change is hard work. It can take a lifetime, and it is what we are for. To learn one more thing when we need to, and to let it change us and change our hearts. When I was ordained 25 years ago, I wrote a benediction. That's the only thing that the ordinand actually does in the ordination service, is give the benediction. They choose all the other people who do all the other stuff, but the words of the benediction are the only ones that the person being ordained writes. And I wrote a benediction which I understand now to be a benediction about change. I don't think I was thinking of it at a time, but part of it is about how every day we go out and begin our lives again, every single day. And how our joy and our love and our compassion give us strength to be in life, and how we are here to love the world, to care for one another, to learn one more thing, and to let it change us. Opening our minds, opening our hearts really does have power, really does change people. Me, you, and all of us. So may it be. And let us sing. I bet you know what the song is. It is number 205 if you're hymnal. And we'll also Our benediction today is from the words of Robert Doss. For all who see God, may God go with you. For all who embrace life, may life return your affection. For all who seek a right path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step. Amen. Go in peace.